Alright guys, let's keep going with our exam review. We're on number 21. It says which is equivalent to 8x, or 1 minus 8x equals 4x minus 32. Well, to move this one around, I want to move all of my variables to where they're going to be positive. So I need to move this one over. So if I add 8x to this one, and I add 8x to this side, I'm going to wind up with 1 minus, or 1 equals 12x minus 32. Is that any of my options here? Oh, looky there. That's option C. Okay, let's make sure we don't have to go any farther. Well, it's 1 equals something on all of them, so that's as far as I need to go. Okay, for number 2, or 22 rather, I have 7/8 x equals 5/6. Now, in order to get that x by itself, I have to multiply by the reciprocal. So I have to multiply by 8/7. And then I multiply this side by 8/7. These cancel each other out. So I'm left, and this over here, is it this one? Yeah. I divide this side by this by 2, and I get 3, and this by 2, and I get 4, because 2 is a common factor between both of those. And I wind up with x equals 5 times 4 is 20, 3 times 7 is 21. So x equals 20/21. And that can't be reduced any farther because 20 and 21 don't have any common factors. Okay? Alright, 23. What's the value of n in the equation? Well, I know I have to distribute this 4. Right? I have to give this 4 to everything inside the parentheses. So when I do that, I wind up with negative 64 equals negative 4n, because negative 4 times n is negative 4n. Now I have negative 4 times negative 5, which is positive 20, plus 3. So this becomes negative 64 equals negative 4n plus 23. Then I'm going to subtract 23 from both sides. I'm going to move it over here. And I wind up with, oh, what is that, 87? Negative 87 equals negative 4n. And then I have to get n by itself. So I have to divide by negative 4. Divide this side by negative 4. And when I plug that into my calculator, I wind up with n equals 21.75. Okay, so there's my answer. I'm going to put it under here. N equals 21.75. Alright. So this one, what's the value of n in the equation 3/5 n equals negative 15? Well, again, I got to get this n by itself, so I have to multiply by the reciprocal because this is 3/5 times n, so the reciprocal of that is going to be 5/3. So these all cancel each other out, and then I have to multiply this side by 5/3. And then I know that 3 goes into itself 1 time, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. So now I'm left with n equals negative 5 times 5 is negative 25. So my answer is A. Okay, number 25. 2/5 of the 7th graders at Central Middle School are going on a field trip, along with 40 chaperones. A total of 320 people are going on the trip. which equation would you use to determine how many 7th graders attend Central Middle School? Okay, so what I know is there are 320 people on the trip. 40 of those are chaperones. And 2/5 of 7th graders are going. So I know for this, I know that I have 2/5 of the total number of people, the total number of 7th graders, plus 40 chaperones is going to give me the total of 320 people that are on that trip. So if I were to go and solve this, I would then be able to determine this X is going to be the total number of 7th graders. Right? So this is 2/5 of X, 2/5 of the 7th graders. So this right here is my number of 7th graders. So 2/5 X plus 40 equals 320, and that's going to give me, if I solve for X, my X is going to tell me the number of 7th graders. So let's come over here. 2/5 X equals 320. No, that means that 2/5 of the student body, or 2/5 of the 7th graders is 320, but we know 40 of that 320 are chaperones. Okay, so this is the equation we wrote. 2/5 X plus 40 equals 320. Okay, Butamus. All right, let's look at number 26. What is the value of the following equation? Let's write this out down here. We have 3x plus 8 equals 2x minus 2. I got to get all my variables on one side and all my constants on the other side. And I'm going to move this variable this way because it's less than this. So I know I'm still going to be positive. So I'm going to move 2x over. And that leaves me with x plus 8 equals negative 2. And to solve for x, I have to subtract 8. Subtract 8. So I know that x equals negative 10. So my answer is negative 10. Make sense? All right. So let's move on to number 27. Oops. This one's 28. Number 27. All right. Solve 2x minus 8, or 2x minus 8 plus 2 equals 2x plus 6 plus x. So I'm going to do this one on a piece of paper. So I'm going to do number 27 here. So I have 2x minus 8 equals 2x plus 6 plus x. Well, the first thing I have to do is combine like terms on the same side of the equation. So this has all my like terms combined, so I'm going to leave it here. 2x minus 8 equals, but on this side I have 2x plus x plus 6. So now I combine like terms, so this becomes 2x plus 8, or minus 8 equals 2x plus x is 3x plus 6. So now I'm back to where I was before, where I have to determine which side is going to keep my variable positive. So to keep my variable positive, I'm going to take my 2x away from this side. 2x minus 2x. And this leaves me with negative 8 equals 3x minus 2x is x plus 6. And then I have to get this x by itself by getting rid of this 6. So the opposite of plus 6 is minus 6, and if I subtract 6 from that side, I have to subtract 6 from this side, so x equals negative 14. Okay, so the answer to number 27 is x equals negative 14. Okay. 28 is another one we're going to have to do on paper because we don't have a whole lot of room. So number 28 is 3 times the quantity x minus 7 equals 138 plus 3x. Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to distribute and distribute. So I wind up with 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 7 is negative 21, equals 138 plus 3x. Well, let me rewrite this. So now I have 3x minus 21 equals 3x plus 138. Well, that's not going to work, is it? Because if I subtract 3x from this side, and I subtract 3x from this side, I wind up with negative 21 equals 138. That is not true. So number 28 has no solution. It doesn't have a solution because I don't have an x. My x's canceled each other out. They gone. So there's no solution for number 28. Okay, let's look at number 29. The Melendez family camped for 6 nights. Their total cost, which included the admission fee of $5, was $89. Write an equation to determine the cost per night for the Melendez family to camp. Alright, so I know their total is going to equal their entry plus their cost for their nights. And their cost for their nights is going to be the cost times the number of nights. Okay, so I know their total was $89. 89, and that's their total. Their entry fee or admission fee was $5 plus their cost for their nights, which is 6 nights at N cost per night. So 89 equals 5 plus 6N. And so I'm going to tell you right now, if you can solve this one and tell me how much they paid per night, I will give you $5 gobbler dollars, but you have to do it by Wednesday. No, I'll give you till Thursday. If by Thursday you can tell me how much they paid per night, I will give you $5 gobbler dollars. Alright, number 30. Solve for x. I have 8 times the quantity 5x plus 2 equals 27. So let's rewrite it over here so we have room to work. I have, let's scoot this over a little bit. So I have 8 times the quantity 5x plus 2 equals 27. So I know I have to use my distributive property and give that 8 to everybody inside there. So 8 times 5x is 40x, and 8 times 2 is 16. That equals 27. So then I have to get 40x by itself. So to do that, I have to subtract 16 from this side and subtract 16 from this side. And I wind up with 40x equals 27 minus 16 is 11. And now I have to get that x by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 40. And I wind up with x equals 11/40. Oh, excuse me. Which just so happens to be answer D. All right, number 31. I am out of space to work on the sheet, so I'm going to grab a piece of notebook paper. All right, let's look at number 31. They want me to solve for x, and my problem is 3 times the quantity, 14x minus 15 equals negative 72. Okay, so I can do this two different ways. I can either distribute the 3 all the way through, or, hey, you know what, I'll show you both ways. So we're going to distribute the 3, Okay, so I'm going to pull my handy dandy little calculator out. And I've got 3 times 14 equals 42. So this is 42x minus, I know that 3 times 15 is 45. And that equals negative 72. So now I have to get 42x by itself. So I have to get rid of this negative 45x. So I'm going to add 45 and add 45. So I have negative 72 plus 45 gives me negative 27. (42x) equals negative 27. Now I have to solve for x, so I'm going to divide both sides by 42. Divide by 42, and I wind up with x equals negative 27 over 42. But I know that I can divide both of those by 3, and I wind up with 27 divided by 3 is 9, and 42 divided by 3, let's double check that. 42 divided by 3 is 14. So I wind up with x equals 9/14. Okay, that works. Let me show you the other way we could have done this one. So we have 3 times 14x minus 15 equals negative 72. Now I know that 72 is divisible by 3 because with my rules of divisibility, 7 plus 2 is 9. So if the sum of the digits add up to a number that's divisible by 3, then that number is divisible by 3. Remember that rule? All right, so I have negative 72 divided by 3 would be negative 24. So I can go ahead and divide both sides by 3. So these 3 cancel out. So I'm left with 14x minus 15 equals negative 24. Okay, you with me? You see what I did? Okay, so now I have to get 14x by itself. So I'm going to add 15 to this side and add 15 to this side. And I wind up with 14x equals 9. And then to get rid of that 14 and isolate that x, I have to divide by 14, divide by 14, and I wind up with x equals 9/14. So I got the right answer both times. I got the same answer. I just got there a different way. I could see that this 3 would go into that 72 evenly, so that saved me a step from having to distribute, and then I wound up dividing by 3 when I got down here anyway. So I can go ahead and divide by 3 and take care of that, and I've got less of a chance of making a mathematical error over here. Does that make sense? Okay, so for number 31, our answer was x equals 9/14. That's our answer for number 31. Okay. Number 32, it wants us to solve and graph the inequality. So I have 4y plus 2 is greater than or equal to 22. Don't let this symbol mess you up. Okay, I still have to solve it like I would solve an equation. So I have to isolate my term with the variable, which is my 4y. So in order to do that, I have to get rid of this plus 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 and subtract 2. That leaves me with 4y is greater than or equal to 20. Now I need to get it down to the y, so I have to divide both sides by 4, and I wind up with y is greater than or equal to 20 divided by 4 is 5. Okay? So now I have to graph that inequality. Remember, if it can be equal to, it's going to be a solid dot. So I'm just going to pick a dot, and I'm going to label this one 5. Now, what this means is anything greater than or equal to 5 will make that work. So anything this way on my number line will make that true. Okay? Let's look at number 3. Number 3, we have negative 7d minus 3 is greater than or equal to 11. Okay? Starting off, we got to get this negative 7d by itself, so I got to get rid of this negative 3. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and I wind up with negative 7d is greater than or equal to 14. Okay? Then I'm going to get this d by itself, I'm going to divide by negative 7. I'm going to divide this side by negative 7. Remember, when I multiply or divide by a negative number across the inequality sign, that inequality sign flips. So I'm left with d is less than or equal to negative 2. So to graph that one, it's still going to be a solid circle because it's less than or equal to negative 2. Negative 2 could be a solution. So on my number line, I'm going to make that negative 2. And my line is going to go that way. Because anything less than negative 2 will make it work. Make sense? Don't make these harder than they are. Okay? Don't make them harder than they are. All right, for A, here's another one where I could distribute, or I could go back to how I did number 31, because I see that I've got negative 4 here, and I have negative 28 here. So I could go ahead, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to write, I have negative 4 times 3x minus 5 is greater than negative 28. But I can see that negative 4 is a factor of negative 28. So I can go ahead and just divide both sides by that negative 4. And that leaves me with 3x minus 5. I divided by a negative across the inequality, so I have to flip that inequality sign. And negative 28 divided by negative 4 is going to give me 7. Okay? So now I have to get 3x by itself. So I'm going to add 5. Add 5. And this becomes 3x is less than 7 plus 5 is 12. Divide by 3, divide by 3, and I'm left with x is less than 4. So my answer for this one is A. Okay, let's look at B. I have 3 times the quantity, p minus 5, is greater than negative 12. Okay, I've got the case again where 3 is a factor of negative 12. So I can divide both sides by 3, divide both sides by 3. So I'm left with p minus 5. I divided by a positive, so my sign stays the same, is greater than negative 4. Now, I got to get this p by itself on this side of the inequality sign, so I have to add 5, and I wind up with p is greater than negative 4 plus 5 is 1. Okay? So p is greater than 1. And I can check to see if that's true by putting it in here. P has to be greater than 1, so let's make it 2. So if I put 2 in here, 2 minus 5 is negative 3. Negative 3 times 3 is negative 9, and negative 9 is greater than negative 12, so that works. Okay? All right, last one. I have 1/4 y plus 3.6 is less than or equal to 1.6. Hoi! All right, we're doing all kinds of funky stuff. Let's try it. If I say I want to get 1/4 y by itself, I have to subtract 3.6 from this side and subtract 3.6 from this side. Okay, so now I'm left with 1/4 y is less than or equal to, let's see, 1.6 minus 3.6. If I'm not mistaken, it's going to give me negative 2. So let's plug it into the calculator and see. Where am I? I'm over here. So I have 1.6 minus 3.6. That should give me a negative 2. That's exactly what it gives me. Okay. Now I have to get this y by itself. So in order to do that, I have to multiply by 4 over 1. So these cancel. And I have to multiply by 4 over 1 on this side. It stayed positive. So I multiplied by a positive across the inequality sign, so the inequality stays. Y is less than or equal to negative 8. That's our answer for that one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is 21 through 34.